This week, Nintendo just dropped a bomb, just a literal bomb. Um, they announced that they are releasing a brand new Nintendo Entertainment System model. Um, it looks exactly like the original NES. I've seen a couple of pictures where someone is actually holding it in their hand, and it's very compact. I mean, it's about what you would expect. No one expected like the NES that's like this size to be re-released when you don't need that at all.
Yeah.
Like you really don't need anything to run NES games. Um, but Nintendo, they're launching it. It's going to be coming out in on November 11th for $60. And you might have seen those. Like, there's one, I want to say it's a Sega Genesis that you might have seen that has like a whole bunch of games already loaded onto it. You can use existing Sega Genesis controllers, but it's only composite video and audio. So it's licensed by Sega. It's made by Majesco, but it just kind of has this cheap look to it. And if you have a modern TV, you don't want to use composite video. You're going to have a lag that's going to affect your gameplay, maybe even making it unplayable. You just don't want to go near that unless you have an old CRT monitor. So this is interesting though, because it's going to be using an HDMI output. So it will be, I'm assuming it's going to be an HD signal, and it will include 30 games, an AC adapter, and a classic controller. And the way that the controllers connect to it I've heard some people that don't like this because I guess they're collectors and they have, like older NES controllers that may not be the best anymore. And of course, since Nintendo's not making new NES controllers, they were really hoping that this would be like compatible with an original NES. But so they don't like it. They don't like what this port is. But the port that they're actually doing is the same exact port that you find on a Wiimote. It's that kind of thick U-shaped accessory port. And it's going to come with basically an NES with a port to plug into it. You can also use the controller on a Wii or a Wii U and use it on classic virtual console games. This also means that if you already have either a Wii Classic controller or a Classic Pro controller, you can use that with this as well. Or you can buy a secondary controller for $10, which is not bad at all. $10, that is surprisingly cheap. Yeah, the system's 60 games, and let me quickly go through the list of games in case you haven't heard about it. They have Balloon Fight, Bubble Bobble, Castlevania 1 and 2, Donkey Kong Jr., Double Dragon 2, Dr. Mario, Excite Bike, Final Fantasy, Galaga, Ghosts and Goblins, Gradius, Ice Climber, Kid Icarus, Kirby's Adventure, Mario Brothers, Mega Man 2, Metroid, Ninja Gaiden, Pac-Man, Punch-Out featuring Mr. Dream, Star Tropics, Super C, Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3, Tecmo Bowl, and then Zelda 1 and 2. So all of these games are good. And what's surprising is they're not just first-party games. There's Konami and Capcom titles in there too, which kind of makes me wish that they included more than just Mega Man 2. Like DuckTales would have been a great inclusion. Konami, I know that they probably don't even have the license for this anymore, but I love both Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game, and the Manhattan Project. Those are both excellent Ninja Turtle games, beat 'em ups. But they probably don't have the license to sell it anymore. Now, as cool as this sounds, and I am really really hyped for this. It doesn't look like Nintendo did announce later in the week that it will not be able to connect to the internet to say download more games, um, and you of course can't play NES cartridges on it. So it's pretty much a closed system. It's 30 games. You will be able to save your states. So you'll be able to save at any point in time, which is definitely nice, almost a requirement for some of these games because they're so hard. But that is unfortunate. There's no SD card slot that we're aware of, so even doing something like buying a game for the Wii U and transferring it over, that's not going to be an option. And I know it's $60, so if you do the math, you're only paying $2 a game. Plus you're getting a controller. That's the only bad thing about it. Also, we don't know what resolution it's going to be showing at. We don't know if it's 720p, 1080p. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say it's probably going to be 720p. I've actually been watching a couple of YouTube videos about there's currently a project that's pretty far along that involves modding an old NES to output HDMI, and they basically what they basically done is they've basically taken the guts of a FrameMeister. Have you heard of those?
Mm.
FrameMeisters will basically take any signal from like composite all the way up to DVI or whatever comes before HDMI and upscale it really well to 720p, 1080p, something like that. And apparently the resolution that the Nintendo outputs mathematically goes up very nicely to 720p. Like all the pixels don't involve any additional spacing or anything like that. It's just a straight upgrade. You just multiply the numbers and bam, you've got a really clear picture with 720p. If you do 1080p, it gets a little weird. You might get some stretching and distortion in the image. So I think just by going on that knowledge, I'm pretty sure it's just going to be a 720p system, which will still look really good with these games. They were designed to run at like what was the resolution then? Like maybe like 120 by 200 or something like that. Really, really low. So yeah, it is, but it's definitely I'm kind of sad that you won't be able to add any more games to it, at least officially. But what were your thoughts?
Um, I think this is really cool. I think this is a cool way of bringing kind of like the generation of like the boom of video games into the new generation. Because like I don't think I've ever felt so old talking to like two friends of mine who are I think just now starting high school. Talking to them about Crash Bandicoot coming to Skylanders, and then them saying, "Who's Crash Bandicoot?" I think at that point, I know I'm not old. I'm not anywhere near old. I'm not even like in my 20s, but that made me feel old, which kind of made me sad. Especially because like a lot of kids nowadays, like there's really great games coming out, but then there's a lot of like amazing games that were out before like the next generation, and they either don't know about it or they do know about it, but they never got a chance to try them. Um, there's a few of these games that I've actually been able to play my life, and uh, I can say there's honestly a few games that I haven't that I really wanted. I really wanted to play the original Legend of Zelda game. Um, all three of the Super Mario Brother games are great.
Yes.
Mega Man 2, great. Ninja Gaiden, extremely hard. Um, and even like,
Bubble Bobble is even a blast
yeah, like
if you've ever gotten a chance to play it.
I feel that's another like if I hadn't done a lot of research on like old games or like specifically some old games, I wouldn't know like what a few of these were. Like I wouldn't know what Gradius was. I wouldn't know what Bubble Bobble was. Um, uh,
Ice Climber is still
Ice Climber,
a dumb game.
yeah. Uh, but the original Final Fantasy game,
I've been wanting to get into Castlevania, and it seems like
I was
this
gonna
is a
say, yeah,
perfect, you know.
I've heard a lot of people just praise the first Castlevania game. I've heard some things about the second one.
Yeah, the second one's definitely the weakest, and a lot of people go back and forth on whether or not 1 or 3 is the best one. But yeah, a lot of people universally love the first one.
Yeah, so there's a lot of games here that I've heard great things about. There's a lot of games here that are incredibly hard, and then there's some games in here that are just, like Ice Climber. And I feel like if you if you were born sometime between like 1999 and up, and you really wanted to know what video games were like back then, or just
Pick this up.
really enjoy like some of these titles and are just curious about how they were played back then, I feel like this is a really good deal. And if you really do like playing video games and you're serious about playing video games, I feel like this is a great thing for you to buy just because this will take you back to like the roots of like gaming culture.
Yeah. And, Nintendo always does an amazing job with their hardware as far as quality build goes. So unless I hear absolutely something horrible about it, I definitely plan on picking one up. Hopefully I'll get it for Christmas. The the and I'm really hoping someone can there's some way to crack the system where you can get other games onto there, because even though they're 30 mostly great games, like there's some on there that I like, the Ninja Turtle ones I'd love to have on there too. It's just a shame that it's just going to be a one-shot closed system, and Nintendo's not going to offer any other way to get games on there. But it's still a neat idea nonetheless.
Yeah, this is probably one of the best plug and play systems I've seen.
Oh, I think it's easily one of the best ones. I've never heard of one that uses HDMI. That alone is great. You're going to have zero lag playing on a new system or a new monitor.
Yeah. And for a lot of people who have like ever gotten plug and play systems, which I'm sure a lot of people have at least one, these are all the games that those are based off of. Just a lot of games.
Oh, like clone games?
Yeah.
Where they're copying, yeah.
It's just like a different name, but it's the exact same thing. It's like,
and even that official, and speaking of which, but that officially licensed Sega Genesis that is like, I think maybe $50.
I think it's like 20 or 30. Like I've seen them at Walgreens.
Yeah, Walgreens carries it, oddly enough. But I've heard, you don't want to get it because it has really bad sound emulation. It does not play the sound correctly for most of the Genesis titles on there. So this is being done officially by Nintendo. I guess what they're seeing that things like the Retron 5 and the Retro Freak and Game Meisters, like people are buying those. Collectors are, and retro gamers. So they're just wanting to offer their own option, and I think it's great. What I'm really hoping that happens as a result of this is I would love to see them do this for the Super Nintendo.
Yes.
And give me all the Donkey Kong countries on that, please.
I want all the Earthbound games. That's a game series.
You know what? If it were on there, I'd play it, because with this, I will play all of those games.
That's a game series that I've really wanted to play, but It's only been in Japan.
Well, and the thing is like the first Earthbound game, Mother Zero or something like that, was on the NES. So you know what? Another thing they could do: release another plug and play NES. Like call it like NES Classic Edition or Mark II or Second Edition or something like that, and have it come with 30 more games.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing the possibility of, definitely another
Like a Super Nintendo version.
N64.
Exactly. Even a Nintendo 64 version.
Minus the controller. I'm sorry, I just had to say that. That's a whack controller, Nintendo.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The Wii Classic controller and Pro has all the buttons you need on it. So yeah, can't wait for this. This is such a good idea, Nintendo. Do more of this stuff. You know what? It also makes me think. We kept seeing reports of all those patents for a system that Nintendo wanted to release that did not have an optical drive. Could be it. I'm just saying. Very feasible.
I didn't even think about that.